All right, so joining us for this video is a guy that you may have seen in the comment section or during the live chats. His name is Vache, and his username is recordingstudio9.com. And here we go. So coming up to us from Sydney, Australia.
Hi, Adam. How are you? And thanks for having me on your channel.
I'm good, and thank you for joining me, and also thank you for interviewing me on your channel, which I will link to in the video description. And so I guess my first question for you is, you were doing a building video series, building your own studio, and so give me some details about a few of the things, excuse me, that you had to go through during that process.
Well, I've been recording for a very long time, usually in my house. And when you have teenagers who are trying to study because they're at high school, you want to give them a peace of quiet. And then you have your partner, which is always annoying about the noises at the middle of the night when you're trying to record music. You come to a stage where you say, well, this is it. I want my own man cave. And my man cave is my studio. So I did lots of research and find out about construction because I'm not a carpenter. I had no clue about how to build something. So I did a lot of research to find out how things are put together. All the different type of wood, the sizes, and why would you cut certain things which way, and so on. So it took a lot of time. So it's a lot of information that I had to gather. And then I wanted to actually be here middle of the night playing the drums. And I wanted the room to be big enough so I could do that, and without annoying the neighbors. So I researched and find out the best way to make a room soundproof. And I got in contact with special people locally here as well, who actually build studios, or not just much of studios, also like soundproof rooms, which could be meeting rooms, offices. So they don't want any of the business meeting ideas or secrets to come out. People who actually design those sort of rooms, I had a chat with them, talk with them, and amount of information I got from being the most simplest thing to the most expensive and out of, it just didn't make sense information. So I balanced it all out. So I built a studio as a room-in-a-room concept. So I built the outside walls, acoustic insulation, a bit of air gap, and then a second wall, again, acoustic insulation. And it took me about 11 months to actually build the place. And at the moment, I absolutely love it.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely recommend anybody on this channel, because I think I have like 3 videos about acoustics and building. Definitely check out his video series on that. Was it called something in the title so that people can just search for it on your channel?
I think the title is called, and I do have a playlist, it's called Building Your Home Recording Studio.
Okay, so check out the playlist.
Yeah, check out the playlist. It goes all the way. I think there's about 30 videos in all up, and they average anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes each video as I'm moving each stage. And in the videos, I do explain all the steps that I'm doing and why I'm doing and why I've taken those steps and what's the reason for it as well, so that it's not just building it. I mean, I watched, before I built it, as I was doing research, I did watch a lot of videos of people building studios, home studios, as well as professional studios. Most of them, I don't think they actually grabbed the concept of soundproof. You can certainly get a bedroom, and they, thinking that by putting a couple of sponges around, it will be a soundproof recording studio. It doesn't. No, it's way more than that.
Facepalm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people ask me about they ask me about that. They're like, they think soundproofing is just like you said, putting that up on the walls. I'm like, oh no, oh no.
Yes.
I said bass goes right through those little pieces of foam, man.
Oh,
then you got to worry about the doors.
Yep.
And it's just like, I don't know the first thing about that other than the room within a room concept and the floating floor. Did you do a floating floor?
I didn't have to, and there is a reason for it. Now I've done a video. I think in my second video in the playlist was all about soundproofing and acoustic treatment and what the differences are, and I explain in detail what soundproofing is and what acoustic treatment is. Because along as I was asking questions and buying materials on the hardware shop. And they go, oh, what do you need this for? I said, oh, I'm building a soundproof room for music. And they go, oh, you don't need this. These are too expensive. Just get egg cartons and put egg cartons. And you go, oh, that's not even acoustic, let alone soundproofing. So I do have a video on that. The reason I don't have floating floor, because the building itself is not attached to anywhere. So the sound, or bass or the kick drum or anything that I play in here, there's nowhere for it to travel. But if you're building your soundproof room, let's say you had a bedroom and you build a second wall, like a room in a room concept, if you don't have floating floors, then there's big chance that sound will still travel to the rest of the building because it's attached. The concrete floor or whatever the floor is attached to another room next to you or below you. But because when you look at my videos, it's a standalone construction, there is no need to have a floating floor. But having said that, my internal wall is still sitting on rubber, so it's not really touching the concrete floor. It's still sort of floating. The walls are floating, but not the actual wall, the floor.
Very cool.
That makes sense, because the sound will still hit all the walls, and then they vibrate to the ground. But in my case, because the walls are floating, then it's less effective. I've done tests. I think the last few videos are me hitting the drums as hard as I can while I've got the two doors closed and with a video and a microphone at the front, playing while the doors are open and then playing while the doors are closed. And I think I managed to get anywhere between 45 to 55 dB difference. Again, I think I also did with a bass guitar as well. I put the bass guitar right facing the door, played it, so we could have a concept of, as a reference level of the video microphone, listening to the guitar, and then close the doors and then play it again, and you can hardly hear the bass guitar. So it's definitely soundproof here. Yeah,
bass and the higher, like the upper mids, are definitely the hardest things. And great job. I mean, 55 decibels, man. That's awesome.
Yes.
So, like I said, I barely know anything about, constructing stuff. I do know some concepts with acoustic treatment, but if you want to, anything involved with building, I would highly recommend checking out Vache's video series, definitely.
Yes.
Can we talk about, now, are you a hobbyist, or did you start off as a hobbyist engineer and then you became a business person, or how'd that work?
Well, I started as a hobby Sorry, I'll do that again. I started as a hobby all the way back in 1986 when I bought my first 4-track cassette recorder to record musicians that I heard in a restaurant. They were fantastic. I said, hey, you guys have any music recorded? They said, no, we haven't had a chance to record yet. I said, well, if I actually get the equipment, would you like to record? And they said, sure. Yeah, we're happy to do it. So I went and spent back in 86, nearly 1,000 Australian dollars. And the wages that I was earning back then was about $200 a week. So I saved up and bought that unit and a couple of microphones. And I think I also had a MIDI sequencer which attached to my 4-track, which, mind you, I still have that 4-track with me today. I had never sold it because that's the starting point of my musical sort of work. And I always kept it as a hobby. I do have a day job, which I work long hours. I work 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. But weeknights, after I come back from work, weekends, this is where I am. It is my hobby. I do work for other people as well. I do recording for upcoming singer-songwriters or small bands or people who just want to sing. Next Friday, I do have a session where I need to actually go to a church to record a whole choir to release a CD within a week period so that they could actually sell those CDs as a fundraiser for their Christmas carol singing. So I do in here and out as well. And I do get paid. I don't do anything for free unless I want it to be free. But it's always been happy as a hobby rather than a business. That's because that's how I want it.
Very cool. And I think a lot more people are doing what you do, which is, you have a day job and then, you do studio stuff on the side. That's just how it goes. Not a lot of full-time guys out there.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I should mention for those who have visited my website, my YouTube channel or my website, and they see all these things, and I'm sure this is exactly applies to you as well, Adam, is that they go, oh, I look at all these gears that Vache has or Adam has to record the music. I need to go and buy those as well. You got to understand that it's about 25, 26 years of continuously buying what I can afford and what is best. So rather than just buying every gear that's out there, you got to find a use for it before you purchase it. Just like in my example, I said the first time I went and asked them, would they like me to record them? They said yes. And that's when I went and bought the equipment rather than buying the equipment and waiting for someone to come and ask, would you like to, can I record? Right. So you always have, these days, audio gear is, very affordable. Audio gears, there's so many of them, from hardware to software, but start small and then do your best, achieve the best with what you have and move on. But don't buy crap. One thing is don't buy crap. Don't buy crap. Save your money and buy a good quality microphone, a good quality audio interface, maybe even if it's 2-input interface. Buy the quality one and work with that and move on until you actually have the money and the job that requires more input or more processing. So make the money before you spend it.
Very, very good advice. And you know what what you said about, don't think I bought all this stuff in one go. This is microphones and cables and, my keyboard that's sitting over here, the bass guitar I just got. Like, I didn't buy all this stuff at the same time. It was I started recording, well, technically back when I was a kid, but I really got into it in the year 2008. So we're talking almost 10 years of accumulated gear, selling gear to buy them, and like you said, if you buy, because my lavalier microphones, I spent a lot of money on them. I've never sold them.
Mhm.
There's no reason to, because they are like top of the line. You know,
Yes.
and that's it. If you buy really good quality stuff, and I'm not talking about buying a Neumann microphone or something like that.
No, no, no.
Audio Technica sells really nice microphones.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I have a couple
Arctic-
of Rode microphones, which are not super cheap, but they're not super expensive as well. Save your money, a couple $100, and buy, those sort of known brand microphones rather than a $20 or $30 microphone, which, it's a waste of money in that case.
Yeah.
That's when you're not really going to achieve good results. You need to have good quality and affordable price ones. Then there's plenty out there. MXL microphones are really great that I have. The Rode, as I mentioned, are good ones. Audio Technica are really good ones. And they're not really super expensive.
Right. And I mean, here's what I always say. Like, if you're just a musician and you really are on a super tight budget, Behringer used to be really crappy, but they've gotten better over the years. Now, the problem with Behringer is reliability. Their stuff is going to break on you eventually. It will happen. But if you only needed to do like a little project, get yourself the Slate Everything bundle for plugins, because I always tell people, it's like, all right, I would never get like the annual subscription from Slate or anybody for that matter. But if I have like one project to do and I can mix it in a month, like that $25 for all those plugins you can't beat that deal. You just can't. Yeah. I just spent $25 on one plugin, just one plugin. Now I have that plugin in
invoices, that Black Friday invoices that I just bought from from Persona or from Plugin Boutique, and there's other gear as well.
Yep, and I mean,
it's especially. I mean, I wait for specials to buy them, so that way. I have them in my arsenal if I need to, but I didn't just always buy it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I should mention with the software, especially with the software, if we don't support those software developers, then they're not going to be there to develop and make new software for us to use. That is my concept as well, no matter how small. Sure, at the moment, being, a Black Friday or Cyber Monday specials, I actually wait for those times to buy them because they become affordable and I'll have them. No matter how small, that amount is still going to support the developer. And it's really important. I do get a lot of people go, they go like a Persona Studio One Pro, which is about $500 Australian. I'm talking Australian dollars because those are the figures that I have. $500. Why are they so expensive? Why does it have to be so expensive? And I say, well, if you can't afford Studio One Pro, that's the $500 that they saying. There's Reaper. It's $60. You can buy that. There are other software which is about, $60 to $100. Why don't you buy them?
Pro Tools First is free.
Yes, there's lots of free ones. And I say, there's lots of free ones out there. Why don't you use them if you cannot afford it? Because you can still make the music regardless of what tools you actually have to start with until you make enough money to be able to afford the more expensive ones. The only difference between the free one or the cheap one and the expensive one is the workflow. There are a lot of things in the cheap one you won't be able to do because it's limited. And the cheap software will have few limitations as well. There are, harder to understand and make it work. And when you actually can afford to buy the big one, you'll be able to do the same project in half the time, and that's what you are paying for.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing.
A lot of people ask me, why are you still using Reaper 4? And, I still don't see a reason to upgrade. And people are like, well, you could technically use it for free. And I'm like, no, I don't. Based on principle, unless there's a feature that I definitely want, like I almost upgraded because apparently like their sample rate converter was slightly improved, and also it supports Opus Audio. But realistically, I looked at it and I'm like, well, I could still use RateBrain to sample rate convert. Yeah, the workflow is not going to be as great as me being able to just render it right from the they don't really call it the timeline. What do they call it? The session, the tracks. But I just don't have a need to upgrade to Reaper 5 because that's $60 that I might need to like my car handle just broke.
Yes.
And that's $60 plus extra that I had. So it's like here's how I buy plugins or software or gear. Number one, do I need it? Not want, do I need it? Number two, I treat it like a tattoo. Even though I don't have any tattoos, if I buy this, do I want it forever? Not that I could sell it later on, which you can, but let's say nobody wants to buy it from me. Then I have it permanently. So it's like that's how and luckily, just like yourself with Black Friday deals and Cyber Monday deals, I think about this stuff throughout the course of the year. And then around this time, I'm like, well, which ones do I really like? And so I actually picked up Kuasa Cerberus. I picked up Black Rooster Audio VLA 3A. I got Cerberus because of the bass guitar. I really think that's the best bass amp stimulator out there right now. I mean, it just sounds good. The VLA 3A, you can get so much gain reduction out of that thing, and it's still transparent. And that I was either going to get that or the Slate FG Stress, and I'm like, you know what? That VLA 3A, man, that thing is just phenomenal. So I got those two.